On Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025, Christie's started auctioning off instruments from Jeff Beck's estate. I figured it would be a great time to share with you how I got one of Jeff Beck's Esquires in my hands. Before we start though, please consider hitting the like button on this video and subscribing as well. The bell icon, of course, will let you know when I put up a new video. I've noticed that like 98% of the viewers on this page aren't subscribers, and I don't know if I'm showing up in your feed, so if you can kind of maybe beat the YouTube algorithm, that'd be great, and you'll be sure not to miss out on any of my future videos. Okay, back to the story you're here for. In 2004, I went to London with my family, and if you've ever been to a hard rock cafe, you know the theme is rock and pop and overall music related. The London location opened in 1971, and it was basically a restaurant that specialized in American menu items like burgers, fries, shakes, stuff like that. And Eric Clapton was a regular, and in 1979 he gave the Hard Rock Cafe a red Fender Lead 2, and he asked the management to hang the guitar over his regular table. Shortly after that, Pete Townsend of The Who delivered one of his guitars with a note that said, "Mine's as good as his, love, Pete." And that started the whole memorabilia aspect of the Hard Rock Cafe, and it really laid the cornerstone for their collection. The Hard Rock in London was not built with the idea of a theme restaurant. If you've ever been there, you'll know it's kind of small, and it really doesn't have the ability to display, instruments and costumes and all sorts of other things that the newer, more modern restaurants have the capabilities of, because those theme restaurants are designed to have things like Elvis's Cadillac hanging from the ceiling. But the Hard Rock, and one thing they didn't really consider when they made the original London Hard Rock is the gift shop, which is the building next door to the Hard Rock in London. Originally was a bank, and the Hard Rock took it over in the early 2000s. And the first floor that you go into, street level, is the typical gift shop for the souvenirs, t-shirts and whatnot. But the basement, because it was a bank, contains vaults. And the Hard Rock kept one of the vaults with the door and everything else intact. And this vault contains tons of stuff that can't be displayed due to the small size of the restaurant. On my last night in London, I went to the Hard Rock Cafe to get my usual Hard Rock Cafe souvenir pin that's usually shaped in a guitar, of course. And afterwards, I went down into the vault, and I was amazed at the items that resided there. And there was a guy that was kind of keeping an eye on things down there. His name was Gareth, and I was the only person at that point in this small vault that was about the size of this room. It's about maybe 15 by 15, maybe a little bit bigger. He came up to me as I was looking around. He says, "I know you're a guitar player. I can smell it on you." And I shrugged, and I pulled a guitar pick from my pocket. And he says, I know it. And he promptly sat me down on a bench. And he said this bench was from Freddie Mercury's home in Hyde Park, not far away from the Hard Rock. And he started to pass me guitars that were on display. They were on display on the typical folding A-frame guitar stands, but I happened to notice that they had little pressure sensors that were kind of built in as like alarms. So I thought that was kind of unique. And he would go over and press the little button and disable the alarm and just hand me a guitar. One of them that he handed to me was a Les Paul Custom that was signed by Les Paul. I didn't know if it was a favorite guitar Les Paul or just a guitar that he had, and he signed it and gave it to the Hard Rock. But I do know the provenance on the next one he handed me was Jimi Hendrix's Flying V. And obviously it's a left-handed instrument, so it was kind of awkward for me, but it was very unique to hold. And it was kind of, speechless at the moment, but I did happen to notice that there was a battered Fender Esquire in the corner. I didn't know whose it was, and I pointed it out, and he handed it to me. And the neck of it was fantastic. It felt so worn in. The guitar itself was really light. It just had that resonant kind of feel to it. When you picked it up, you knew it was going to work well acoustically, and that's always the sign of a great electric guitar. When an electric guitar sounds good unplugged, you know it's going to be a great guitar plugged in. And it was in tune, which was really kind of awesome as well. But it was beaten up, but it played like heaven. And as I flipped over on the back to look at this guitar, it was all battered around the edge, chipped. I mean, this was not relic. This was earned patina. And amongst all the chips in the body and the back, I could see a name carved in it. And let's be very clear, carved is a gentle term. It wasn't like some sort of script that was scrolled in there by a craftsman, or it wasn't a factory stamped. It was carved how like high school bleachers and high school desks get treated, with, Zeppelin rules carved in there with like a pocket knife or whatever was there. And it was really quite crude, but it said on the back, Jeff Beck. And I gasped. And I looked at Gareth, and I was in shock. And he says, yep, it's his. And I asked about the branding on the back. And he says, everyone marked the guitars back then in case they got nicked, that any pawn shop or music store would stay away from them. And immediately I started playing every Jeff Beck lick I could pull out. There was just acoustically, there were no amps, no effects. It was literally just a pieces of wood bolted together with some wire stretched across them. It was simply the purest form of the instrument, and it was also, to this day, the best guitar I have ever played. And I have played a lot of guitars. If I ever find a Tele or Esquire that feels as good as that one, I'm going to buy it. And I am still searching. Apparently, the little bit of the history, as far as I did, what research I could dig up, was Jeff Beck gave Seymour Duncan a bunch of Tele and Esquire stuff. He basically gave Seymour a bag full of disassembled Fender Esquires and Teles and things like that, and basically told him to make some guitars out of them. And one of these guitars ended back up in Seymour Duncan's hands. I have also read somehow that it has now passed over to the British talk show host Jonathan Ross. He somehow came into possession of it through an auction of some sort, and as of now, I believe he has it on loan to the Hard Rock. So, very cool. Coming back home, when I got back to the States, I told a few friends about my experience, and most of them called BS on me. And if I didn't have pictures to show it, I'd be the same way. A few of those friends were also very upset to find out that I was allowed to handle these priceless artifacts on my trip. And I get it, but I have respect for these instruments and what they are, so I would hope my friends would know I would not be manhandling them in any way. When I went back to London in 2013, went back to the Hard Rock Cafe, I didn't get to handle any instruments because they were all at this point pretty well backed off behind some velvet ropes, and the gentleman that was working there didn't seem to be the type of guy that would pass a guitar around the room, but it was really nice to visit and to point to that guitar and show it to my wife and say, that's the best Esquire that I have ever played. And the employee that was there in the vault kind of looked at me strangely, and I didn't really want to go into too much detail on that one. But anyways, I also want to say thank you. If you're out there, Gareth, or if you know where Gareth is or know who he is, please, I got to thank him for a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I'm still getting mileage out of it, which is pretty awesome. And I want to hear from you guys. Have you had any experiences with famous rock star guitars? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Anyways, that's it. I just want to share that with you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care.